Hi, everybody. Welcome to another 12 FPS. I'm Uni. I'm playing Zan,
Hello.
and I've got another person here.
What up? Hello, it's me, RS Obsessions, also known as Abby, and I am playing Ruby.
Yay!
Playing Ruby and Zan today.
We are.
Yeah.
Because they're two cute wizard nerds, and we want them
hmm
to hang out. Um, I guess we did not really plan much of anything for this.
we
Uh,
did not. Already heard you.
But let's start off with about how long has it been since Journey to the Center of the Antler, do you think?
Sorry, give me a second. That was the last thing I expected you to say. Oh, you've gone and give me the giggles.
Good, I'm going to get a good grade at D&D.
Which is both something to. Oh gosh,
Possible
I
to
forgot the
achieve and
meme.
normal to want.
Yes, exactly. That's the one. Oh gosh, how long would it have been? I feel like this would probably take place after the On the Rocks one, so maybe. Hmm. Gosh, I do not know. I do not know. I
Mm,
want to see maybe week and a half. I want to say
yeah, that makes sense.
maybe. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that is, he's a little bit, he's kind of surprised that they've stuck around as long as they have, but um, Blink seems okay with hanging out as long as he gets to spend time with Ruby. And
Mhm.
Zan certainly has other stuff to do, but he's not in a huge rush to get back home and unpack.
Mhm. Yeah. uh, so what has Zan been doing these days around Ruinal Castle?
um, yeah, he's largely been hanging out in like the library, like the big nerd he is,
Oh
doing
yeah.
doing research on his own curious pursuits. One big advantage of like visiting a different magic user's lair is like, oh shit, they have access to their to different bits of knowledge that I might not. So he's just like going through anything that
Taking
Antler
advantage.
has. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, well, in that case, you probably have bumped into Ruby a number of times then, because Ruby will often rush into the library, look through all the books that she hasn't read yet, grab something, and then run out.
Yeah, they've almost certainly had, a number of in passing interactions. Um
Yeah. Just
uh,
little pleasantries and hellos and.
um I think it may be that there's one time where she comes in, she's looking through stuff, but maybe she's not in as much of a rush to get in and out as she often is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
as she's looking through things, finally Zan will pipe up. Um, were you looking for something in particular? Can I help you?
Oh, and like Ruby kind of like looks up from the books that are littering the shelves and um well, not anything in particular. I'm just browsing at the moment.
Hmm. Well, I I've seen you come in here a lot. Is there something in particular you've been learning about?
Well, I've been trying to find books to that would be easier for Umi to try to read. I'm trying to teach them how to read. It's a lot trickier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of you to put that effort in.
Oh, thank you. Like Ruby says, like a little awkwardly. Then I think she's gonna like look over at Xanon wherever he's made himself comfortable.
He's definitely got a bit of a pile of books, uh, just stacked up next to him. Some that he's already like left a number of uh, little tab bookmarks in for different points, and then a whole other stack of things he hasn't even gotten through yet.
Hmm. I feel like Ruby takes a moment to like observe like all this, and eventually she just kind of gives a shrug before going over to sit down next to wherever Zan is sitting.
um,
So, what are you reading?
oh, um, well, I've been doing a bit of, brushing up on some, transformation and, transmogrification type spells.
Trans Transfiguration stuff,
Yes, all those sorts
that sort
of
of thing.
details. It is my specialty, but it is always important to review the basics once in a while to make sure you don't lose track of where you started.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Ruby just nods.
Is she just like
Uh,
nodding along to agree?
yeah.
And Zane goes, if I'm not mistaken, your specialty is more evocation, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm. And Ruby like kind of puffs out her chest in pride. I am definitely better at invocation than most stuff. It's just a lot easier for me to figure out that sort of thing than other spells.
Of
It
course.
makes more sense.
It's good to stick with what suits you best. I never had much of a knack of for that myself, so you've got me beat there.
Aw, Ruby's just beaming. Uh,
And he goes,
so,
"Well, I know
how long have you been doing magic?
how long. Oh, well, uh, I didn't start, professionally pursuing it until I got to school when I was, oh, I don't know, somewhere around your age. But I was fiddling with it when I was younger before the school swooped in and found me.
Hmm. So they found you? So it was like was it like they were looking for like magic people and then they, like had you enroll in the school?
More or less. Once my caretakers noticed I had particular talents, they let some of the magic colleges know about me, and I got recruited, more or less.
Hmm.
I was very,
I think
very
like
excited. I, had always wanted to learn more about what I could do, but I just, I didn't have a whole lot of experience at the
Ye-
time to even know what to look for.
Ye- I
What
feel
a
like Ruby, like as she's listening, is kind of resting her elbows like on the table,
And Zane goes, "What
kind of
about
like in that
yourself?"
kid way. Oh, uh, well, I've never really like been to a school for it. Like Ruby kind of admits as she like directs her gaze up to the ceiling, partially in thought. And I've mostly just figured it out on my own, if that makes sense. It's easier to do it in Einquell because a lot of places have that stuff more readily available than in Faruma. But
Yes, there's a lot of advantages to practicing magic here. It's one of the
there's a
reasons
lot of
why I
magic
love
here.
living in this country.
Ruby is definitely like nodding along in agreement to that. There's a whole lot more magic here than well anywhere else I've been really.
Yes, it's seeped into the very ground of the place. It's I think honestly, it has always been a bit of a wonder to me that more wizards have not come to live here, but well, it's also nice to see the toon environment how it develops without us poking our nose in everywhere. You and I, we get to know the secrets.
We get to know all the secrets. Uh,
And I
hmm.
imagine like they chat a little bit like that. Then like does a little bit of pointing out to her the sort of things he's reading, answering any questions she has. Um, and
Mhm.
after a bit,
Zan is
he,
going to quickly find that Ruby has a lot of questions.
which is great. He loves it. Um, yeah, he's very happy to see her so interested. Um, and after a bit, he goes, well, when I got to see you in action, as it were, it was a bit of a stressful time, but if you're ever interested in giving a bit of a demonstration of your skills, I'd love to see what you can do.
Oh, really? And Ruby is. Oh no. She's very excited all of a sudden. Like, really? You'd want to see that?
Of course.
Oh, oh gosh. I'm just picturing Ruby like immediately like getting up and
Oh,
like, can we do it right now?
uh, yes, of course. We can find somewhere appropriate to practice.
Yes. And Ruby just like gets out from like the little table booth that they have, and like I picture her going around the other side and grabbing Zan's arm and just yes, 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 yes,
Oh.
magic time.
He's a little bit surprised at her like the degree of her enthusiasm, but also he's just like, "Oh good. I'm glad." Very fond smile.
you have you have hit the hyperfixation.
Yeah.
I'd
I imagine they go to like
imagine
hmm,
like yeah, I would imagine they'd like either head to a room. Well, if they I don't know for sure if there would be a room dedicated to this in the castle quite yet. Because I know for a fact that even usually when Ruby practices spells, there's like a spot in the woods that she usually goes.
mm-hmm.
Just like just a spot she set up where it isn't would it be too close to trees or whatever. Just yeah.
I imagine also something like there's probably a courtyard somewhere in the manor that would be a good spot for her practicing.
Yeah, true, true. Hmm. Fable suggests the ballroom and the nuts and bolts gallery. Big and
That
empty.
works.
Yeah, that works. Gosh. Ruby's just dragging Zan behind her. Just rambling on and on.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
he's very politely listening. Um Anytime she like might glance back to be like, "Oh, am I boring him? Am I doing too much?" He just like gives her an encouraging question to ask her to keep going.
oh, 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 I hold so soft. uh, I feel like as they're walking there, Ruby does have a couple more curiosities of her own. So, gotta think how to word it. Uh, I asked how you met Antler and stuff, but how did you meet Blink? Because you
Oh,
guys are like two peas in a pod.
Yes, he it was actually quite lucky that we ran into each other. I was in a bit of a magical bind, and he helped me out, and yes, I've been extremely grateful to him ever since. He's always been there to help.
Hmm. I think like Ruby nods, like it just yeah, just nods. That does make sense. It does sound like that would be Blink. Blink is
And
very helpful.
Zan goes, I I admit I am curious how you wound up living with Antler.
That's that's a bit of a long story. I hmm. Well, the short of it is I needed a place to stay, and well, I was looking for I don't know, just a place to be alone. And then, well, I ended up not being alone.
You were hoping to do a bit of squatting, and it turned out to be already squat upon.
Exactly.
Well,
Walked into some old ruins and found an old skeleton.
well, considering how that sort of story usually goes, I it seems you made out rather well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes, when Antler asked me to come and help him out, well, I confess, I expected any minions he might have had to be a bit older, but you have you've been a good influence on him, I think.
Me? Really? Like Ruby gets like the distinct expression of me, a good influence. How is that? No.
Instead, he just gives a smile and a shrug. Just my thoughts on it, at least.
I feel like at this point they would have made it to the ballroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. 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 If would have used this room for something like that before, there probably would be some kind of thing to target magic upon some poor dummy.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. I'm just imagining her like going over to like a closet in the hallway nearby and then just rolling out this dummy that looks like it has been singed a number of times.
Zeta's like, oh, what's your friend's name?
Put me on the spot, why don't you? Um like Ruby just like looks at the mannequin. Um hmm. I don't think I ever really considered a name for it. We could go with Manny for now. Ruby says as she just pushes it towards like the center of the room.
Zeta nods very seriously. Yes, I think Maddie suits it very well.
Hmm. And I feel like Ruby kind of walks to a different part of the ballroom and she kind of is bouncing in place a little bit as she reaches actually up the sleeve of her coat. Well, she's not wearing her coat. It's more of her sweater, and pulls out a little wand with what looks like a little amber gemstone at the end of it. And the first thing she's just gonna do is just firebolt at the mannequin. What is your
Roll to hit mannequin.
roll to hit thing that holds still?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty low AC, I think.
Yeah, probably 22. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it real good.
Yep. Firebolt, smack you to mannequin. There's just like a little smoldering bit right in its chest.
And Zen goes, very nice, very nice. Um, and uh, he he wouldn't do it right away. He'd like wait for her to do a few more things, and um after a second he might stand up and go, do you mind if I uh give a tip or two?
Oh, Ruby kind of blinks in surprise because she was about to like cast another spell, but at the prospect of getting a tip, she starts nodding enthusiastically, like, "Oh yeah, sure. What sort of tip do you have, or
Well,
tips?"
I've just found in my experience that holding the wand this way, and he sort of leans over her and gently takes her hand to sort of correct how she's holding her wand. He goes, that has often been uh, a bit better for my aim, at least.
Hmm. I think like Ruby's actually paying very close attention to this because before she started using this wand, she actually used component pouches. So she's not as used to stuff with arcane focuses.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, Zan's been using wand magic for quite a while, so yeah, when she doesn't react poorly to his advice, he's happy to chime in and give little things of like, oh yeah, here's the posture you might want to hold when casting this kind of spell, and so on.
Yeah. Ruby is just you quickly find that Ruby's actually kind of a good student. She's very enthusiastic about learning this sort of stuff.
Which is honestly really delightful for him. Yeah, it's been a long time since he's like tried to teach anyone how to magic. So he's really quite pleased by how open and eager she is.
I think with the new grip on the spell, I think Ruby is gonna attempt to cast Firebolt again to
Hmm.
see if it has helped at all. I'm gonna roll. 18. It's a new way to hold it. Maybe it's not quite as steady as her first shot.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes even like it literally could be that it's like, oh, this is what works for Xan, and maybe it won't work as good for her. But also stuff is like,
Mm-hmm.
even you could get used to something that might not be the correct quote unquote way to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
matter of adjusting to a
Yeah.
different way. But either
It's
way,
about muscle memory, and if
yeah,
you have muscle memory in the wrong way, then it's gonna take a little bit to get the muscle memory in the right way.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but still, Zan is just like, oh yes, that's great. Um, and yeah, he'll step back and sort of be like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your demonstration. Please continue.
I think like Ruby just kind of like gives like a dismissive hand wave, like a silent nah, it's all right, you're good, and then just practices a couple more firebolts before what spells did I have her prepare? Uh, I think she's just gonna do a straight up magic missile.
Those are pretty great. Hard to miss
Yeah,
with those
they
bad
don't.
boys.
Yeah, they do not miss. Just sends
Manny
three
is
little darts
extremely
after the
durable.
mannequin. I feel like this would be a wonderful cue for. I'm gonna roll damage for them because I have not been rolling damage before. That's 11.
Nice.
Just there's just a pow pow, and then the third one slams right into the head of the mannequin, and then it just pops off,
Um, and
and then it just bounces on the floor.
Zed takes a moment, just like puts a hand over his heart, goes, "Moment of silence for our dear friend Manny." But after that, and if Ruby laughs at it, he'll look a little bit pleased with himself. Yes, I'm going to get a good grade in hanging out with child. um, but then he will go and pick up Manny's fallen head and bring it back to um, the rest of the mannequin's body, and will use mending to just sort of swoop it back together.
Yeah. hmm. What would be? Huh. So, random curiosity, but hmm. When we were in the Mindscape, the library that was in your head, was that like a library in real life, or was that just like a mind library? If it makes sense.
Oh, well, a bit of both. It was composed of more or less anything I'd ever read or written, much of which I have in my own home. Um, I've got a bit of a study there, but most of what I have there is more magical research, and that library contained a little bit more variety.
Man, you mentioned writing books, and Ruby has looked in all sorts, a whole new sort of interested. So you've like written down books of like what you've been researching and stuff.
Oh, well, I've written a few papers on what I've done, and nothing so substantial as to be my own book, but I think I've maybe gotten into a few compilations. But
Hmm.
it's been a bit since I've published anything.
Ruby nods. Hmm. What kind of stuff do you research? Is it like I would assume since it's because since you're good at the transfiguration stuff, was it more stuff about that?
Yes, that is the bulk of my research. Since I moved to Einquell, I took a particular interest in, well, the magical makeup of the land and the people within it. The magic that exists within all people, but is so much more potent in Toonkind individuals, I think is a really fascinating line of research. So I was working on something like that before, well, when I last left off.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Ruby is just like nodding thoughtfully as she listens. Ruby's more of like a listener than a
Mm,
talker herself when it comes to like conversing about stuff like this. She's definitely one who asks questions and gets as many answers as possible.
sure. And
Yeah.
he goes, I think he might then, like, as she's sort of looking expectantly at him, and he feels compelled to keep going because he's like, oh, she's interested. Okay. He's like, I more or less got my start with the physical makeup of the individual. When magic allows
Mhm.
us to change our shape so readily, it's an interesting question of what the self even entails, where the separation between one's own magical essence and the rest of the worlds. And I put some time pursuing that. I don't know if I came to any decisive or conclusive answers, but it's always something that, well, I thought was decently interesting.
I mean, it certainly sounds interesting.
I thought so.
Hmm. Or I think like Ruby is like nodding thoughtfully. Hmm. Do you ever wonder, like, if you didn't get into transfiguration magic, what other school of magic you might have gotten interested in?
Oh, um, yes, I've thought on it a bit. I have, dabbled in a few spells in the other schools. Well, I did always think that, you know, sort of wards and protective spells were a lovely field to get into, but never quite got the hang of them. What about
That's
you?
fair. Oh, well, most of my spells are evocation. Well, a lot of my spells are evocation. I've been trying to like learn about other stuff, but it's a lot harder than evocation. Hmm. It just doesn't click as easy,
Yes, yes,
if that
I
makes
understand
sense.
that very well. But that's, you know, it's good that you're at least looking into it. I found the the younger the wizard, the more powerful they are, I've found, because you have fewer limitations on how you view your magic.
Huh. I think Ruby. Well, first of all, Ruby does preen a bit.
Yeah.
And then I think she actually kind of looks thoughtful at that. Just, yeah, you're giving this teenager a lot to think on. Hmm. Hmm. I feel like I need to at least broaden my spells a bit more because it's really annoying when I only have spells prepared that only do specific things. I
Yes.
feel like I need a wider toolbox.
Yes, that is a very good thing to notice. If people box themselves up into one field, it, well, they become a master of certain situations, but you can't always count on that being the situation you're in.
Exactly. Because, well, when I was, well, I was gonna say younger, but it wasn't that long ago. I found that it was, when I first started learning magic, evocation was just a way for, you know, protection and stuff like that. A way to get people to, well, back off if, yeah. Like Ruby kind of starts looking away and like back at the mannequin. And I feel like Zan probably would have finished fixing it up by now as they've been talking.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, it felt convenient at the time to have a toolbox that would just, I don't know, break things, make sure that, hmm, I don't know how to put it in words.
That makes a great deal of sense to me, though. You, when you're in a situation where that is a concern, it only makes sense that that's where you put your focus. And he chews on his lip for a second before smiling at her and going, I I'm glad to hear you feel like you're in a situation where that isn't as necessary as before, though.
Hmm. Ruby nods and do you want to roll insight?
I do. Nope.
Ah, 7.
A
No.
7.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really give you much with a 7, unfortunately. There's definitely the sense
Unfortunately.
of relief of, yeah, I can learn more and now that I'm in like a situation like this, but
Hmm.
nothing really else that is obvious to you.
Zan, I
Hmm.
think Zan is perceptive enough to, he obviously can't guess at the specifics of what Ruby's been through, but he definitely has a guess. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, he just nods because yeah, when well, I think I think it's always important. You have a very curious mind, which I think is a wonderful sign for how powerful a wizard you can become. The most important part of pursuing this field is to always want to know more.
Hmm. Ruby nods. Hmm. Well, I feel like if you just stopped being curious, then it would be hard to like learn new spells and stuff.
It would. And, well, there are plenty of people who learn a bit and are satisfied with what they figure out and stop. And that's quite all right. But I think it's those who continue to ask questions and try new things that get the most
Mhm.
out of their magic.
Hmm. I feel like Ruby is just kind of curiously looking up at Zan, and after a moment, she starts hmm, talking again, and so what was, or maybe I guess the better question is who, and she kind of like makes a gesture for tapping like the side of her forehead. Um,
And Zan winces a little bit. He goes, "Ah, yes. I was wondering when you'd ask about that." Um,
well, it was kind of, I'm gonna admit it was a little weird, but
and he like snickers and then make a insight check.
insight. Okay. Uh, that is, oh, that's just a straight D20 for
Oh
Ruby. Oh,
boy.
Ruby. 16. Yeah.
Yeah, you catch him sort of like giving this smirk and chuckle, and you realize it is again not entirely at what you said. um, and he goes, "Ah, well, it's a complicated situation. Most people I don't really, well, um, she is an old friend of mine. She has been a companion who, well, keeps me safe from creatures like that mind flayer. So she was
Hmm.
not thrilled about having people come in and visit when she's worked so hard to keep people out. But
Unexpected guests.
mm, I think she understood that it was necessary. But if I'm being honest, I think she was actually playing it up a little bit because she was so excited to meet new people. It's very rare. And then he like after a second just like and just laughs at seemingly nothing.
Oh, Ruby can only wonder what was said.
Indeed.
uh, uh. I feel like Ruby has kind of got like that thoughtful expression on her again. You could kind of see her glancing behind herself. And well, you did notice it in the mindscape, so I probably won't make you roll to notice it now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah, there's still very much like the little shadow that's kind of like it's kind of like against the wall from the light sources in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then he glances back at it as well and goes, I didn't want to bring it up in case it was a sensitive matter, but do you mind if I ask about your own um, companion?
Hmm. Hmm. I feel like Ruby like thinks on this for a good chunk of time. But then again, she already does kind of know about uh Zan's buddy. So she's just like, it might be fair to exchange.
But like
That's
as
kind of
she's
her
pausing
mindset
and
at the
thinking
moment.
about it, Zan will again be like, "You, I'm sorry. I if you're not comfortable with it, I won't pry. We've all got our own things to well, it's your business."
No, if I mean if you want to ask questions about it, you can. I haven't really talked about it much. Well, not with a lot of people.
Well, I will confess that Antler he'd asked
He wrote
for
you a letter, right?
yes, he asked for my help with demon possession, I believe he said it was. I
Hmm. I don't know if it's technically a possession. It's more like we're stuck with each other, really.
hmm. And Zan sort of he peers at it and like what does it look like at this moment?
At this moment, it kind of has like a similar appearance to when it to in the that it had in the Mindscape. Only it's a lot more two dimensional, a lot more
Mm-hmm.
limited with how it looks, and it's definitely puppy shaped instead of more wolf shaped. And it's just kind of quietly sulking like on the wall, just watching you guys curiously.
um Then he looks at it for a moment, sort of appraises it curiously, and goes, "Have you been able to talk with it?"
Oh yeah, it doesn't really have a lot to say though.
Hmm.
Mostly death threats. Like Ruby like gives it the stink eye,
And
and
goes,
it gives a stink eye in return.
Zan goes, "Well, that's hardly conducive to your partnership, is it?"
It is not.
And Zan goes, "Well, I. It seems like it hasn't caused you too much trouble since that day, at least."
Hasn't really done anything since then.
Hmm.
Just an occasional snide comment, but
And Zan again gives a little smirk and goes, "Well, you get used to those over time.
I
If
guess so.
if the two of you are, you know, going to be together for a long time, well, I hope you can work out a partnership of sorts, but it's never easy to be stuck with someone who, well, isn't always the most polite." And then he makes another sort of like roll of the eyes at something.
Hmm. I feel like there's just like a comfortable silence after that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a look, just like a thoughtful silence. hmm. Um. Hmm. This might be another odd question, but while we were in the mindscape, what made you change your mind about the memory? I mean, you seemed against the whole thing at like sharing it at first, but well, I mean, I was too originally, but I don't know what made you change your mind.
Well, I I was definitely I was definitely concerned that giving them over would somehow.
Let it go.
Yes, but I I failed to realize just how young it was. Or well, there's something to be said for all the books I read, all the research I've done in my years. They do a lot of telling you what certain creatures are like, and perhaps it's right about the majority, but
If you generalize everything, then there's when you get to an individual, then
yes,
it's not going to be the same as the generalization.
it's difficult when there's a creature who is just trying to do what is in their nature. They don't know the good or the bad of it. They just want to live. I
Hmm.
think anyone deserves that right.
Hmm.
What made you change your mind?
I don't know, honestly. It just it felt right if that made sense, if that makes sense at all.
He nods.
Like a gut check, I suppose.
Hmm. It is hard. I I've met a number of things, people, creatures, all sorts. Giving the benefit of the doubt is risky. Sometimes it has been a wonderful choice and has led to new friends and new experiences and new discoveries. And other times it has led to betrayal and it's made it harder to take the risk and have those benefits. So,
As as Zan is talking, Ruby just kind of starts shifting from like side to side, like balance, like adjusting her weight, and one of her arms just kind of starts rubbing at the other arm.
that's why, well, that's one reason why I'm glad I've made such good friends with Blink. He he's always willing to take that risk and make a new friend, and it has been good to remind me of that as well.
I feel like Ruby nods at that. Blink is really cool, I think. At least,
I think so.
yeah. Do you Hmm. Is trusting people easy for you?
Then thinks about it for a moment. It comes and goes. Like I said, I have had my trust betrayed, and it has made it harder with time. But
Hmm.
I still want to make the effort whenever I can to trust people, even when it gets hard.
Hmm.
I think well, I think the times when it works out are worth the times it doesn't, in a way. That doesn't make those betrayals any easier, certainly. But, well,
Hmm.
he kind of trails off.
Yeah. Like as Xan is talking about trust and all that, Ruby's just kind of rubbing her arm a little bit, just in
Mm.
kind of absent thought. Hmm. Hmm. Like she seems like she's wanting to say something, but she doesn't know like how to formulate it. So she's just kind of standing there awkwardly,
Mm. And
just
after a
thinking.
moment, he smiles and says, well, that's that's part of what I meant when I said you've been a good influence on Antler. I did not get the feeling he was especially good at trusting people until somewhat recently. And I can't say for sure what it is that changed his mind, but I have my suspicions.
Hmm. I think it's kind of funny how I might be somebody who led to him trusting people. I don't really trust people that much.
Do you trust him?
Trust is, yeah, I trust him. But it took months and months before I even considered it.
Yes, I was about in the same place as well.
Hmm. Don't you ever get worried that, like, trusting someone is going to lead to bad things happening?
Oh, yes, all the time.
Does it get easier?
With some people. Over time, you
Hmm.
get to know them better and you have faith. And with some people, there's always a little bit of that doubt, whether it's that they will realize something about you that you think will make them realize you're not worth being around anymore.
Hmm.
Or maybe you're scared that they'll just get tired of you and leave. Those sorts of fears, I think, are something everyone has. But
Hmm.
the more you convince yourself to trust, the quieter those doubts get. They never quite always go away, but They get quieter.
Hmm. Huh. Ruby's just kind of like sitting and like letting the soak in, I suppose. It's an opinion on trust that she's never really quite taken into consideration. Hmm. Hmm. She does have one more question I can think of in mind, but I do not know how to formulate it in. If that makes sense at all. Huh. I think at this point Ruby's just gonna kind of shake herself out of it and kind of pull her hand away from her arm. And I think she's just gonna absently just play around with magic, just casting little cantrips,
Mm-hmm.
just letting it gust, just casting like gust and like having just a absent breeze pass through.
Hmm. Ruby, make a little perception check.
Sure. Perception check. That is a +3. Whoop.
16.
16.
After a second, you notice like Zan has gone. He's taken a seat and watching her sort of fiddle around with her magic. And after a bit, she might realize that like he fixed up Manny and like there's a little bit of like embroidery on the place that connects the head to the body, which isn't necessary. Like he used magic to fix the mannequin, but he added a little bit of extra personalization to it.
Aww. Oh, that's really cute. Oh my gosh. Do you embroider stuff?
Oh, yes. I, um, well, one thing I've been working on is putting spells into clothes. Uh,
Ooh.
as a result, I've gotten more into weaving and embroidery.
Do you think you could well if it's all right, could you show me? Cause that sounds like Ruby has kind of gotten abruptly shy.
Oh my
Which is
gosh.
yeah, not something typically Ruby.
And he smiles a little bit. He's a little surprised. Most people, when he's told it to them, they've been like, "Oh, that's nice," and kind of moved on with the conversation. Um, so when she
Mhm.
gets interested, he's like, "Oh, of course, if you'd like." Uh, he rifles through his robe. You get the feeling that like there's a lot of pockets hidden in there. um,
Mini pocket.
um, not so much the hammer space variety though. But eventually he
Mhm, mhm,
pulls out a needle and a small like bit of cloth that he's been working on and
mhm.
gestures for her to come sit by him.
Oh man, Ruby with like so much enthusiasm is just immediately like bounding over and sitting herself right next to Zan.
And he will show her the in progress embroidery he has on this bit of cloth, and it looks like um, he's got like a flower partially embroidered on there, um, and he says, "Now take a look at this and tell me if you notice anything about it." And I will say, make an Arcana check.
Ooh, Arcana. That's a plus. plus 11. 23.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, as you're looking at it, you definitely sort of get a faint thrum of energy, and you're looking at it, and you notice like the thread that he's been using to stitch this flower has a little bit of like a sparkly kind of quality to it. Um,
Hmm.
and after a second, you're able to figure out, oh, there's like a
Is it like
cantrip
some kind of.
loaded into this.
Ooh. What cantrip is it? Is it like. Hmm.
I well, this one I've trying to work in minor illusion. Um,
Ooh.
it's not, the most practical spell, but I think people could have a good time having that at their disposal. I've gotten the hang of putting in light spells, and I'm working on figuring out the way to weave in other things. For some
Hmm.
reason, I can't figure out the magical reason behind it. But for some reason, sparkly threads tend to hold the magic better.
Hmm. Well, is it. Would it be because of what the sparkly stuff is made of? Because I know that there are some spells that use gem dust and stuff for, powering them up. So it would make sense if maybe that sort of stuff was like woven into the thread. It might make it easier to hold the spell.
That definitely has occurred to me, yes, and I think those that actually have bits of gem dust in them will certainly hold it much more strongly. But even just regular shiny thread can help a little bit more than your average linen.
Hmm.
And I- it's only my hypothesis, but I think it may be a side effect of tune logic.
Oh, tune logic. Ruby just rolls her eyes.
He grins very wide, and he's just like, it's you never know how it will pop up. And then of course it pops up, and it's like, ah, why didn't I see it before? But
It's just it always
that's
happens when you don't think about it, and it's just, Ruby's like,
precisely.
oh.
And he
Especially when you're
he
like hanging out with tunes. Have you ever been pulled into a montage? It's weird.
the number of times Blink has convinced me to skip a trip to town by going via montage is incredible. It's well, it's disorienting to say the least.
No kidding. It's like you teleport without being ready to teleport, and it's just suddenly you're there. And and time has apparently passed, but did you notice any of it? No, it just happened.
It's the sort of thing would be terrifying if they weren't just using it for fun.
It's just I it yes. Like Ruby is just like yes, thank you. Because normally, whenever something like toony happens, everyone's just like, "Oh, it's just a tune thing. Don't worry about it." And then Ruby's just like, "Hello, hello."
That's what happens when you hang out with tunes. They're just like, yeah, we just do that, whatever. And it's like, oh, she hasn't gotten to speak like normally with another real kind person in so long.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't know if there's anything else you want to cover, but I kind of imagine they like go along this thread of conversation, and Zan will like pull out another little spool of thread and like a bit of cloth, and
Mhm.
sort of show Ruby what he's been doing. Maybe if she wants, he'll give her a bit to sort of practice with. Um,
Oh, yes.
yeah, just
Yes.
in part because it's a cool magical theory and he's really excited that she's excited about it, but also he just thinks that embroidery is a really nice relaxing hobby and this kid feels like she could use some more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. She might need a hobby that doesn't involve breaking things.
Zan likes hobbies that involve making things, so they could help each
Yeah.
other out.
Yee. I kind of like leaving it off with that because that's just that's real soft.
Yeah, these
Yee.
two big old real kind nerds just being soft together.
Big old nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point, I'll just leave it off with Zan after a bit of them talking, and then we'll just look up at Ruby and go, hmm, thank
Hmm?
you for being such a good friend. I think you mean a lot to people.
Oh. I think Ruby kind of gets floored at that for a second, like, wait, what? She
Yeah.
doesn't say that out loud, but
And he will
I think
just,
she just kind
yeah.
of
He
sheepishly.
doesn't elaborate further. He just says that and goes back into the weaving.
Oh, 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 boy, soft. Oh my gosh. Ah! I think eventually
Yay.
Ruby just says like a little timid, like, thank you, I guess. Yay!
Yay. Yeah.
Yay!
Thank you, friends, for listening to
Yay!
two very good little nerds hanging out, being nerdy.
Yee! Good nerds, good nerds.
Uh, and to you, we wish good nerds, good night, good day, good morning, whatever time.
Good night. Thank you for listening. It was lots of fun. And yeah.